I think that's where it comes to like the maturing in it is like the whole goal is us doing this. So it's stopped being about who's taking what, and more so about making sure that hey, we're able to complete this project together.
Wow.
So
Welcome to Set Life, where we tell stories from our industry. I'm Kelly Leger, and this is Amber Buto.
Welcome back to another episode of Set Life. I am your host today, Shider Davina, and I am very, very excited for this episode because I get to introduce to you guys my bestest friends in the world, Sean and Carissa Archibong. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
There's rare people in the world that like you get, there's people that you spend your energy on, but there are also other people like you can have all the time, but you never spend any batteries
at all. Yeah.
So we literally, I don't know if it's a toxic or not toxic relationship that we have. We talk to each other every single day,
almost nonstop.
It's kind of like
the day that we can't go by without talking to each other.
Yeah, it's like weird. Like, and I'm like, is this normal?
Yeah,
probably not. But like,
I think it's even to the point where like if we go like 2 days without talking to each other, like,
oh, are we fighting?
Are we fighting?
Are we beefing?
Are we okay?
Yeah, and I've traveled around the world with these guys, and that's like your friendship get tested when you travel with someone.
Yes.
You haven't really completed the full friendship test circle until you travel with them.
Yep.
Like
100%.
And like there are some people that like you're great locally.
Yeah.
But there are some people like you travel with them. I'm like, oh no, it's not. Never doing that again.
Yeah.
But we've traveled around the world together. Yeah. We were in Europe just recently.
Yes.
And Christy actually took my our engagement photos. Yep. And Sean was...
I got seasick. The one day, I mean, that was so disgusting. We had 3 days of going back to back on a ferry. And then the one day I needed to be at my peak performance, my body decided to be weak. And
it's
that
okay.
made me
really
sad.
Yeah. It's part of the story though. So it actually adds a little bit of spice,
some flavor to it.
It's like not all butterflies and but
sure.
I'm so glad and so blessed to have you guys in my life. Yeah. But I want to share with you guys to the world. So let's start from the very, very beginning.
Okay.
So how did you guys get started in the industry?
With what we do?
Yeah.
I think...
Wait, sorry. What do you guys do first?
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
So we're a husband and wife duo here in Houston that work primarily with photo and video content for brands as well as weddings and events. Mainly brands is what our big goal is. But yeah, that's our little bread and butter right there.
For about 7 years now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Almost 8.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. It's been cool.
Yeah.
I think is this August? No, this is September. Last month was our first full year as freelance. So it's been an awesome trip.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know it's a scary, scary feeling. And
it is.
Do you want to get to that topic of like going freelance full time? We could later down the road, but like let's continue with like y'all's journey.
Yeah. How do we get to where we are, or how do we even start? I think both of us had two different reasons for even getting into what we do now. Right. So I guess I'll start then. Going in. Yeah. So I've always done art in my life. I've done breakdancing. I used to draw, photography in high school too. I dropped it, but then I also did tech theater. So I was always like trying to find the next
art. So you're like art every social group in school.
Unnecessarily.
Kids dancing. The very artistic.
Yeah, for sure. But I think one of the things I noticed about myself too is that like I would do something for a while, but then I would drop it a little bit after. So yeah, like I said, I did photography in high school, but then I did end up dropping it after a while. But then I picked it up again 2016 after graduating college, but mainly because, like I said, one of the things that I noticed about myself was that I would start up an art form and then not long after I'd drop it. One of my close friends he does breakdancing full time. So I was like, I kind of started thinking to myself, what does that look like in terms of like, why does someone do what they do? Like, why do you do the art form that you do? And why does it breathe so much life into you?
Right.
So I initially wanted to do a docuseries on it, like why do you do the art that you do, essentially. So I was like, hey, let me pick up a camera and learn video. So I was like, okay, let me do that. But I kind of jinxed, well, not even jinxed myself. I kind of I tricked
Right.
myself into like going, hey, let me learn photography again first
Yeah.
before I jump
Yeah.
into doing video work. And then next thing I knew, I was doing it all the time. Never got to do the project actually.
Wow.
But yeah,
A different way.
yeah,
Yeah.
So I was still in college at
Mhm.
this point, and it was my last semester before I was to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed one more elective to graduate and earn my degree. And so I was like, let me just do photography as like an elective class.
Right.
Get an easy A.
Yeah.
Call it a day.
Photography.
And then whenever I joined the class, they told me I had to buy my own camera.
Oh.
And I was like, buy my own camera?
or what?
Like,
Or pay for the class.
Like this class is 10 grand. Like it doesn't come with a free camera.
And so then I bought my first camera and I started photography. My teacher was always like giving me praise and like just shouting out my work in
Mhm.
class and like explaining to other students what I've done
Mhm.
on certain projects. I'm like, okay, like why are you gassing me so much?
Right. Yeah.
And then I was like, maybe I can do this like in my own time, like
Mhm.
outside of the class.
Right.
Like I started exploring with my friends, shooting different projects around town with the friends that I had in that town at the time. Because we went to school in A&M in Corpus
Gotcha.
Christi.
Yeah.
Okay. So small town.
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just kind of started learning there. And Sean at the time was back in Houston.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I was working for a nonprofit at the time.
Okay.
At this point, Chrissy and I had been dating for like 4 years now.
Gotcha.
So I just graduated a year or
Before.
a year before that. So I was already home.
And you graduated in
A&M in 2016.
okay. But
Yeah,
what did you graduate? What's
Oh,
your
my
degree?
degree was in marketing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
So kind of.
yeah, still playing into the same field.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, my degree was in marketing, but at the time I was working for a nonprofit.
Gotcha.
With at-risk youth and whatnot. But I was, like I said, I started photography and she's telling me, hey, I'm doing photography too. So
We started at the same time.
yeah, so we would start bouncing ideas between each other when we were like,
Mhm.
long distance and whatnot.
Back to Houston after that semester.
Yeah.
We kind of just started doing it together.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a dream. Wow.
Yeah. It was a lot at first, but we made it through. We did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess if we're cool, we can talk about what that was like
Yeah.
going as a couple. But
Mhm.
like I said, it was a lot. I think one of the things that people don't understand, especially when working together, is that you're just like how in a relationship you're trying to figure out what works for both relationships to flourish. It works the same way when it comes to like working together with a partner, especially when you're married and you're
Wow.
doing it together
Yeah.
in the art world. Because I mean, I have a certain way I like to shoot, and then she has a certain way she likes to
Gotcha.
shoot. So I do remember like at the beginning of like when we shoot together, we were putting together like a style shoot. We'd get to the shoot and we would try
To compete with each other.
yeah, we would try to compete with each other,
Mm-hmm.
but it was so disgusting where it would be like at the end of the shoot, we're like in the car mad at each other.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Also, the toxic kind of gotcha.
Well,
But y'all work in the same project.
It'd be like, you didn't give me any time to shoot. Or they
Small amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But then I think as we started kind of like, of course, a lot of communication, like what works, what doesn't work,
Right.
like what do you like to shoot and what do you like to shoot?
Like learning how to give each other that time. That
Yeah.
Mm.
I think at one point we actually started putting like timers
Oh wow.
for ourselves. Like, oh, you
sick.
get like 5, I get 5. But then as we graduated through it, we've started figuring out I generally don't like to shoot a lot. I like to wait and then find the shot that I want and then take it. Whereas Chrissy likes to
Yeah.
shoot more so. So I think as we try to start growing in that aspect, we kind of
Yeah.
meshed in a way where
So just context for listeners, it's so when you guys would do a shoot,
yeah,
you basically do a merry-go-round with each other.
Pretty
like,
much,
So
pretty
you
much.
shoot for 5 minutes,
yeah,
shoot for 5 minutes, and then
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
each other would take over
yeah,
at certain points.
yeah.
Yeah.
That we're not like shooting the same thing.
Right.
Like we're setting up our own shots.
yeah.
Taking
Gotcha.
those shots and then letting the
Mm.
other person set up their own.
Yeah, because a lot of people do it together.
Exactly.
Like so, but you guys
Yeah.
are like, because your eyes are different. Like you guys are-
And I
that's
think
very interesting.
in a weird way, I think it did help us get better faster than I think
Yeah.
Mhm.
we did.
Well, we're just trying to one up each other's shots.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Healthy competition.
yeah.
Ish.
So it would be situations where like you had to be forced to look for different angles because she's already. So I
Yeah.
remember like there'll be times where she's getting an angle. I'm like, please God, give it to me. Please don't let her take the photo. You know?
I'll take the idea that he was thinking without him saying anything.
Yeah.
And then he'll be like, dang it, that was my idea.
Yeah.
But that's so crazy because you guys are pretty much one person now.
Yeah. But I mean, it helped us like figure out what we actually like when it came to photography.
Mhm.
I found out I love wide angle like shots and more like
I love it.
exaggerated dynamic shots, whereas she's
Gotcha.
more like tights,
Right.
intimate shots and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So if you guys are ever like following our page and you see like a dynamic wide angle, most likely me and vice versa. So
Right props.
yeah. But honestly, it did get to a spot where our styles really sort of meshed together.
Mhm.
Like
It's
we're
like a whole package now.
yeah, there are times where I mean actually a majority of the time now, I actually don't know who takes what photo.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
'cause we look back at a
we look back at a set, I'm like, I don't know who took it. One of us did, but
Mhm.
I think that's where it comes to like the maturing in it. Is like the whole goal is us doing this. So it's stopped being about who's taking what
Yeah.
and more so about making sure that hey, we're able to complete this project together.
Wow.
So
Yeah. So that's why you guys are called CS Visuals. And
Yeah.
CS stands for Carissa and Sean.
Yes.
Visuals.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so when clients are hiring you guys, they get the whole package.
Yeah, they
Not
always get-
just C
Yeah.
visual.
yeah.
S visual. It's
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
You get the
So-
complete look.
Yeah. So we always like I think with our clients, we always even if it could be a lot at times, we always try to make sure both of us are present just because like that is the brand. Like it's us, both of us like shooting together, that dynamic.
Yeah.
And we've also done it so long together where there's certain things where I can go to a shoot and I'll blink out
Yeah.
if she's not there, just
Yeah.
because she's the one that helps me kind of push certain ideas across. So yeah, we've kind of we're stuck with
Let's
it.
talk about that. Let's talk about, because I know a lot of people, you know, there's a saying like, don't work with your family,
Right.
don't work with, you know, your spouse or whatever. But you guys seem to go against the grain and
Yeah.
figure that out. You guys you guys are healthy. You guys, can you guys talk about that? Like, how do y'all manage that? How do
Yeah.
y'all? Because there's definitely conflicts, right? So let's talk about that.
So I think in the beginning, we were kind of butting heads a lot.
Mhm.
And I mean, we still butt heads every now and then.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, it was a lot more, just because we were trying to figure out how to work together. And it's like you get into fights with your spouse, right? Well, we get into fights with each other in our work as well. as
Yeah.
outside of work.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like having to separate, like, oh, this is my spouse, and he's saying this to me, and like getting emotional, and turning that around and being like, oh, we're working together on this project, and we have to like figure out how to communicate well and how to manage emotions that may show up when it's not really about being emotional.
Yeah.
And
because that could easily bleed in your business stuff could easily bleed into relationship stuff, and like someone could bring up like, that one time you were sitting there and like, you know.
I think it has to do, to me, it has to do with like two things. Is like the mentality behind why you're doing what you're doing and communicating. So like if she's telling me, hey, this doesn't work, I have to understand that she's not telling me that because she thinks I suck or something doesn't work. Her end goal is to make sure that everything looks good for both of us, not her, but like the group. And then of course it's same vice versa, you know, like if I'm saying anything, it's like the end goal is that we're making sure that we're both look good. We both are doing the best that we can.
Yeah.
So we do that, and then we also make it a point to like communicate to the best of our ability. Like we do not, at least we try to make sure that we're not ever pointing blame, but we're saying, hey, this is how we feel about certain things, and then also taking both our, you know, how we both feel into account and making sure that we're listening to each other, you know. So because I think a lot of the time it's very easy to go, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. They're blah blah blah. They're just talking. But
My way of thinking. and
yeah,
Mm.
Thinking.
yeah. But then it's also learning that, like, oh, that she does have her way of thinking. Let me try and understand how she's seeing it, so I can see if it's something I need to start adjusting on my end to help, and vice versa. That way, we just kind of flow into a solution. So even if we do get in like butt heads nowadays, I think a lot of the times they're a lot faster because we've learned how
Yeah.
to communicate and manage and communicate through it. You know, like, oh, this doesn't work. Okay,
Yeah.
here's our solution. We always try to come up with solutions
Right.
as to like fix
So you
the
guys
problem.
fight well.
Yeah,
Because there will fighting and conflicts inevitable. There's gonna be
it's
friction
gonna happen.
regardless. But if you know how to communicate,
Yeah.
you know your why,
Yeah.
like
And there's been friction on set even.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
because you
We've
guys know how
learned
to manage
like,
that.
yeah, get through it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Because you
then-
guys just shot recently like a huge campaign, like a whole day.
yeah, that was
And-
yesterday.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
No, but even that was super cool. We've had situations like shoots where people are like, "Hey, when do you guys even know when to switch off? Like, when do you know whose turn it is?"
Mhm.
And we're like, "Oh, that's crazy." We've gotten to a point now
Like
where
it's muscle.
yeah,
muscle
we
memory.
just know
Like,
that
Natural.
it's okay. It's
Yeah,
your
you
turn.
get in a
Like,
flow
just go
zone.
through
That's
it.
just like
Yeah,
Or like Sean is trying to set up a shot that he sees in his mind,
Mhm.
but I'm shooting at the time. He'll try and tell me, "Oh, if you did this, it would be cool," and I'll try and shoot what he's thinking, and then I'll just naturally hand off the camera to him.
to
Mhm.
make sure.
Then
Yeah.
he'll step in and get the
Yeah.
shot that he was thinking of.
so
because
it's not a
sometimes-
hard rule that like
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
no, I
getting
have
the
5
fuck-
minutes.
Yeah, no. Like, I think
It's
we've
like,
gotten
yeah.
to a point now where it's like the goal is to
Mhm.
make sure we're getting like the best shot
Yeah.
that we can together.
I
So
think that's so great that you're able to watch Chrissy shooting. You're able to take a step back
yeah,
and like I
I
wish
love
I
it.
had that time on set. Like
I love
all the
it.
time. I'm always so close to
Yeah,
the project.
Yeah.
I don't have the luxury of like stepping back.
Yeah.
And, like,
I
let
think
me
that's
think about this.
it's
That's
such
so
a huge benefit. Like
wow.
just
Take a
being able to
breather.
like, because there will come times where you're just blank, you don't know what to do. So it's like at that moment, I'm like, hey, Chrissy, you ready to shoot? She knows what that means.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm able to like kind of take a step back, look at the set, maybe pull up some inspo, and then while she's shooting, I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? Oh yeah, cool. And then we just
Versus when he's
Yeah.
shooting,
yeah,
I can help direct. He can help direct when I'm shooting.
yeah.
So it's
So
really
then
helpful.
yeah,
Wow.
it's super cool.
And
yeah.
I think what I've figured out, especially in Houston, in the landscape, it's like you grow so much faster if you have a team.
Yes.
And you guys are a natural team already.
Yeah.
So it's like
Lucky.
getting scaling and like
Yeah.
because for the audience context, these guys never stop working. Like they never stop. Like literally have to force them to go on a trip with us. So they'll but even then on the trip they'll start editing or start doing stuff. But wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
On our shoot.
yeah,
Yeah.
literally on the trip this is what they would do. Like they would hire a model through Instagram and they
Yeah.
would do like a run and gun type shoot on
Yeah.
the streets of wherever
we
we
are.
are.
Yeah.
That's so great.
That's fun.
I love that. And I want to also it's a big question that a lot of freelancers are definitely in our audience because we interview a lot of people in the industry and stuff like
Right.
that. Like, but people don't know how to jump from freelance solo stuff
Mhm.
to a full time. You
What do
know,
you
like they have their full time like their
Oh, their
full
full-time
time 9 to
job.
5
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they do their photography, videography after work.
Right.
Essentially, you know what it's like to work like 2 jobs, but you're
Yeah.
not getting paid for like the one after work.
Yeah.
Yeah, so talk us through because you guys used to have a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chrissy, do you want to start that? Yeah.
So pretty much, we would. I think I said it earlier, but we would do our full time before.
9 to 5.
Yeah, the 9 to
Yeah.
5 before we went to our side gig at the time, where we would take photos and edit and all this stuff. And so the whole time during this time period is about 5 years. During this whole time, we're always wanting to go full time
Mhm.
as photographers, videographer, and it was kind of hard to step into that.
Mhm.
And we were always like, okay, well, when we get here, we'll do it. Oh, when we get here,
It's
When
always
we did- yeah.
it's always a stipulation.
and then it was I think it was like last year, right?
Yeah.
In July.
July. 4th of July.
4th of
I
July.
remember.
I got an email as we were about to go pop fireworks,
Mm.
and
Wow.
I got an email saying that my position at my full-time job was terminated.
Literally right before you bought the pop.
Yeah. Like, yay.
At not,
What?
well, the guy was just typing up
Yeah.
an email to hit send.
Yeah, and I was like,
Wow.
I was very shocked. I was like, I don't know how you're gonna do the company without me, kind of thing.
Yeah. Because you were at a pretty high position at your company, right?
Yeah.
You were. What were you? Just for context.
I was the director of sales and marketing.
Wow. So that's pretty up there. You were.
And it was
had
an
people under you.
IT firm, so
Okay.
but whenever I got the email, I was like, what? Like, this is not even making any sense.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I took a second, I thought through it, I was able to breathe, and then I was like, great. I just got let go.
She was smiling. So weird.
I was like, this is
I've never seen
amazing.
someone
Yeah.
so happy
Yeah.
to be like before.
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause sometimes did you like the job at all?
I liked it up until a point.
Okay.
Because I feel like I'm a very creative person in a very corporate job. And it was kind of like, okay, this is just what I have to do
To be able to.
to be able to do my photography on the side. And whenever that wasn't there anymore, we were also in talks of Sean going full time, maybe like that whole year from like January to August, or at the time, July.
Yeah.
January to July, we were like, okay, well, we want you to go full time so that like I can stay at my job while you build our business. And we always said, oh, let's have you go full time in August. It was always August in the back of our minds.
Yeah.
So we were always aiming for August. And then we had talked to some friends at dinner one day, and we were like, oh yeah, like Sean, he's gonna go full time, and then I'm gonna stay at my job for stability.
Right.
And we were just talking about, oh,
that's very real. Financial
Yeah,
is
for
definitely
sure.
a concern.
Yeah.
and they were like, oh, it sounds like, because we were talking to them about like trusting God and like just jumping in and doing it. But then they were like, oh, well, it sounds like you're not trusting God. You're trusting yourself.
Yeah, it's like you're like trying to jump, but like you're also still holding on to the railing on one hand.
Yeah.
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 And so then when I got let go, we were like, oh, let's take a step back with our plan. Like,
Yeah.
Like,
Like-
oh, the plan's changing now. We got thrown a curveball. Didn't expect to get let go.
I was still like applying for jobs, like trying to get another full time back up
To replace
what I had lost.
Mhm.
And so I was doing interviews, sending applications, doing all that. And then at one point it was like it was just very eye opening when I had an interview and they're asking for some crazy stuff. And I was like, I really don't want to do this again.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, I hadn't even talked to Sean yet. And I was like, I don't want to go back into sales. Maybe I'll just be freelance too.
Yeah.
And
That's such a crazy thought then,
yeah,
right?
it was
both
a
of y'all.
crazy thing
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
It was wild.
And then on Sean's side,
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little bit more about how he was
Yeah.
going through things.
Because this was
Yeah.
going on concurrent times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like both at the same time, which is so wild. Yeah. It's funny, like one of the things that that did happen, yes, is that, after that dinner that we had on the way home, we're like, you know what? Yeah, like if you lose your job, man, we'll still do this.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter. We're just gonna
In
dive
hindsight.
right in.
that was
The
1
next-
week
The
before.
next week is when she lost the job.
Wow.
And we're
Yeah.
just like,
God
oh.
heard it and be like, you said it.
Yeah.
I heard it out your mouth.
Like,
Yeah.
oh man,
Man of your word right now. I'm gonna give you an opportunity
yep,
to be a man of your word.
you gonna test it? I'm like, oh boy. So, I think one of the things I will say though that did help was that Chrissy and I had already been doing our stuff consistently since 2016.
Yeah, it's like
2017.
an after work.
After work,
Yeah.
it didn't matter whether it was free or not free. Like we were shooting like consistently to the point where we started getting to a spot where we were getting paid like
Yeah.
to do it a lot.
Yeah.
So after she got let go for work, I was working at the church. I was working at Hope City Church as the lead photography director there. So she got let go, but we didn't feel like
We were struggling.
we were struggling.
Yeah.
We're like,
You guys were
oh,
like, oh, we're okay.
okay. Yeah, we're
We're not hungry.
yeah. So I remember during that whole like month of her like applying, I'm over here like, oh man, I still want to go full time. Like I do, but I'm Nigerian. So like the idea of just jumping is
Mhm.
really, it doesn't really work well
Yeah.
with
So you always have to
with
have
my
a plan.
culture. Yeah, you always have to have a plan. You always have to make sure that there's something like stable,
Structure.
which I think is why we even went into the idea of like, oh, she'll have the stable job while
Right.
I
Yeah.
build.
Right. There's some risk management
Yeah.
involved, like
But
Yeah.
assessment.
something that really kind of clicked about her losing her job was that nothing really is like stable.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
stability is a very different word today.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
not. I feel like what the most stable thing to me at least is like is one, trusting God, and then
Mhm.
like trusting yourself. Like I I have the skill. I know I can
Mhm.
do it. So why would
Gotta
I
do it.
trust somebody else to
Mhm.
do it for me? I just
Mhm.
do it myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the whole month that she was applying, I was still kind of going through it. I'm like, man, I still want to go full time. And it was it was more of a pressure now, which was so weird
Yeah.
that we're in
Mhm.
like a really hard spot where I would think this is when we kind of like recluse and want to like figure things out. But I was feeling more of that push at this time. Like it
Mm.
felt like this was the time to do
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
Which is weird because I always wondered what that time would look like,
Mhm.
you know? Um, so yeah, so I remember one of the weeks I had to do youth camp for Hope City, and I was driving to youth camp, and I'm sitting in the car. I'm like, God, you know where I'm at. You know how I am. I need some signs.
Mhm.
You know I'm not gonna do this if I don't have the signs.
Yeah.
And I get to camp, and within a span of an hour, I was talking to one of the pastors, and you know, he was just asking how we're doing because he knew we just lost Chrissy just lost her job. He said, how we're doing, and I was like, oh, we're actually doing fine, like everything's fine, yada yada. And he goes, well, I feel like this is the time for you to get uncomfortable. I don't know
Mhm.
why I'm telling you this, but I feel like I need to tell you
Mhm.
this. I go,
Hmm.
that's crazy. All right. Appreciate that. And like of course he went deeper into the details of it, you know, like kind of talking about how he got into where he's at, and like, you know, you'll never know
Mhm.
when the right time is, but when you start to feel uncomfortable, that usually is the right time.
Cool.
And I was like, okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Wow. Just
So
drop that right there.
yeah, and
No, you
of
can't.
course I was like, you know what? That's whatever. He's just talking.
Yeah.
Within like the next 15 minutes, I'm talking to another person there at the church, and of course, same question: how are you guys doing? Is everything going well? Yada yada. I'm like, oh yeah, you know, same answer. Yeah, we're doing good. You know, thank God. We're not. You know, I think photography has actually been helping us out,
Mhm.
but you know, Chrissy's still looking. We're getting into it, and then he says the exact same thing. He goes, oh, well, I feel like this is the time for you to get uncomfortable. And I was like,
Yeah.
ah, you're scaring me. So yeah, we had that full conversation. You know, he pretty much echoed the exact same thing that the pastor just 15 minutes ago, two completely different like spaces, had told me.
Yeah.
So I think I freaked out, and then I called Chrissy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what's
I
going
remember
on.
that call too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I called you. Yeah, I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I
Yeah.
think like I have to do this. Like I think this is something where I have to do. And Chrissy was like, that's crazy, because I was thinking that we should do this too
Yeah.
together. I was like, are we gonna try to do this together? And she's like, yeah, I think so. I was like, okay, bet. And I think I told you too.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, but let's just wait. Let's give it one more.
Give me
Let's give it one more. I think it was the next day or the day after. At the time, like the church was like restructuring our schedules and stuff like that. And he was talking to me about what it would look like to be able to do what I was doing outside of church, like photography on the side, while being full time at the church. So we are just kind of like going through schedules. And I remember I was talking after that meeting, I was talking to one of our friends out there, just like, hey, you know, yeah, you know what's so crazy? This happened at camp. And I was telling her about how, like, you know, that word uncomfortable came into play and whatnot. And she's like, God's already told you. Like, what are you waiting for? I said, I just need one more. That's all I'm waiting for. Just one
Yeah.
more sign.
Yeah.
And 5 minutes later, someone that works at the church walked up to us and goes, hey, what's going on? So I'm like telling him about like the schedule and all that stuff. You know, yeah, just talking. He goes, hey, I have a question for you. Are you ready to get uncomfortable? And my mouth dropped, her mouth dropped, and we're
Yeah.
like,
The common
I was
theme.
like, all right, yep,
Yeah.
all right, that's it. There's nothing else I could do
Yeah.
here. You got me. So, and I think that's also a really cool thing is like the way that you know God's talking to you.
Mhm.
It's like sometimes it's not like right in your ear, like,
Mhm.
oh, this is what you need to do. It's stuff like that where it's like it just consistently just hits you in your face.
Mhm.
So
Like after that, if you don't do it, you're just being disobedient.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and and you feel it.
Yeah, and
Like, you actually feel it.
You feel kind of
This-
dirty inside.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
So
you can't not do it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't shake it off. Yeah.
So I as soon as he said that, I walked outside and I called my dad because one thing about me is like my dad is my go-to. I always go to him about everything. So I called him up and I was like, "Hey, I think I might leave my job, quit
Yeah.
my job." And the last time I talked to him was when I told him that she got let go of her job. So he was
That's a
like,
crazy thing for a parent to hear.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
You know, so
You're crazy.
yeah. So we started going in, like, it was a back and forth conversation
Yeah.
for a little bit. And I'm always like, if he tells me something, I'm always like, okay, yeah, sure. That's it. That's fine. But for the first time, I really actually felt like, no, I have
You
to
had
do
it,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have to. So I told him, hey, yeah, no, I respect it, but I think this is something I have to do.
Mhm.
And then he was like, okay, yeah, do it. Like, I guess that's what he was waiting for, just to hear like the resolve in my voice. So he was like, okay, do it. Like, if this is something that God's telling you to do and you feel strongly with Chrissy, and I think we had either called you into the call
Mhm.
because you're like, let's get Chrissy on here.
Yeah.
So Chrissy was pretty much, we're both
Mhm.
echoing the same thing. He's like, you guys feel strongly about it? Then, I mean,
As long as you're on the same page.
yeah, just
Yeah.
go for it. So,
Yeah.
I put in my 2 weeks, and at the time, I think the pastors were out for, I forgot why they were out, but I hadn't seen them. So I put in my 2 weeks, and the Sunday that they returned, I was finishing up at the church and I was heading home, and the head pastor was like, "Hey, I want you to meet me in my office. I want to talk to you about you leaving. I want you on contract." I was like, "Oh,
Oh.
really? Okay,
Okay.
sure. Well, yeah, I'll see you
Yeah.
when Monday.
Yeah.
I'll be there." So
God provided there and then, like as soon as you let go.
yeah,
Yeah.
as soon as I let
Then
go,
you made a decision.
hmm
God already like
figured it out.
Yeah.
Got a
Because
routine.
I was on that scope. Because when we were talking, like, those 2 weeks, we're like, we got to figure out, we need to get a retainer. Because to me, one of the most important things about going freelance is you have to have a retainer. I
Mhm.
think people do not appreciate that enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. Like what for our listeners who are on the verge of like, oh, how do I turn this to what's a practical steps?
Practical steps. Yes. So for us, it was the pastors blessed us with a retainer. So we're still working at the church during Sundays
as
and
a freelancer.
yeah,
Mhm.
Sundays and events. So we're pretty much there all the time, but we have the freedom to be able to kind of go out and branch out. So I think the first step, I think, is getting to yourself to a spot where you could actually get paid for your work.
Okay, so don't quit yet.
Don't quit, please.
So keep your 9 to 5
Yes,
job.
I don't want you guys telling
Build-
me
yeah.
that I ain't got you to quit your jobs yet. Get yourself to a spot where your ability it could be paid for, and even then, keep working.
Mhm.
Keep working. I always like to say this. Yeah, build up your safety. I always like to say this. It's like it's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Mhm.
There's certain skills and abilities that you'll pick up as you're going through it that will help you in the long run.
Mhm.
So as you're building yourself up in your skill set, having retainers is very important. So, like, start reaching out to brands that you like. If there's a certain niche that you want to, like, kind of expand in,
Mhm.
definitely reach out to brands in those niches and see how you can start working alongside them on certain things. Start building that retainer up, and then once you get to a spot where you're like, okay, this works, sure, then jump ship.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I don't like the idea of just like going full throttle without like
Plan.
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
That I can't work like that.
Right.
But you just bide your time and
Yeah.
just do what you have to do. Don't rush it. Enjoy the process, and then you'll get there.
Yeah. But have confidence enough in your skills. that, like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can
I
do
can
it.
do it.
Yeah.
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 But that again comes with time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
like, for example, what she was saying earlier about how we would work 9 to 5 and then we're outside shooting from like 6 to 10,
Right.
editing to like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Mhm.
Even nowadays we're working, not like you said, we work nonstop. But I
Mhm.
think it's because we built that from
Built that drive.
Yeah.
we built that drive, and that's
And
how we
that
were working
structure,
before. And
you've
yeah,
already
so-
Yeah.
you're already doing it.
yeah.
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 Just at a different scale.
Yeah. So we have days where we'll travel out
Yeah.
and then we'll come back and then we're still working like
Yeah.
the same day. And to us, it's like, oh yeah, easy.
Yeah.
Like that's an easy
Stacking
thing.
our days.
Yeah, we stack our days with like
Yeah.
700 things, but
I mean, we had a shoot right before this. So.
yeah. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
literally how it works, is like you again, you build up certain things that help you
Mhm.
as you progress. But
Great. Yeah.
yeah, my answer, if practical is the things that you should do, build your skill up, take your time, and then just build
Yeah.
retainers, you know.
Sweet. Those are
Mhm.
great practical steps.
think-
So that's how you get from your 9 to 5 to your 24/7.
Yep. Yep.
Like,
You're 24/7.
now you work nonstop.
But again, like for us, we never actually
Yeah.
picked a time that we were gonna jump. Like
Yeah.
we
Mhm.
got thrown into it.
Mhm.
Mm.
But because of how much we had built sweat equity
Mhm.
within the
So
community,
you were already ready.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
moment.
it was one of those where as soon as she said she got let go, you know, people are already like, "Hey, do you need anything? Do you want anything?" Like, because we've been there, you know.
Mhm.
So we got out, and it was a situation where as soon as I said I was um doing this full time with Chrissy, we stuck it on social media. We started getting hit up like
Yeah.
Yeah.
a lot.
So that's a very important thing, is building your network.
Yeah,
Yeah.
build your network, and then
True.
Mhm.
also building your network in the most humble way possible. Like
Mhm.
don't do it because you're trying to get something out of someone.
Mm.
Do it because you actually care.
Like the connect. Yeah.
Yeah, like build actual
Genuine
community.
connection.
Yeah,
Community.
yeah. So like because I think those are the ones that last the longest.
Yeah.
I never try to be friends with someone just to get something out of them.
Yeah.
I just want to know who you
Yeah.
are. And if I think you have a really cool skill, I'll pay you to learn your skill.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
I want to have that genuine like movement with you.
Relationship first.
Relationship. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think because of that, since August, like we haven't had a month that we've slowed down, which
Yeah.
is insane.
I think
Yeah.
the slowest time was probably the first 2 weeks of January.
Yeah, that's when like people are like getting
Yeah.
out of the
Yeah.
holidays, trying to figure out what
Yeah.
their marketing plan is for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
But other
Yeah.
than that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we've just been moving.
Yeah. We actually have, I think between all of us, we have a running joke where usually at like the end of a month or
Mhm.
beginning of a month, I'm like, oh man, I don't have anything lined up. And
Yep.
within the
Yeah.
next like day,
Yeah, God's like waiting for you to say it and leave your mouth, and
Yeah.
then he's like, boom, 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 boom.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think
It's
that actually
like-
happened at the beginning of this month. I was on the phone with him.
Uh-huh.
I said it. Wow, man. And then within the next hour,
Because we had just come back from our trip.
yeah,
Yeah.
within the next hour, like we had like 3 back calls.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
That-
So
That's I love that for y'all. So
Yeah.
what's just for closing? What is CS doing right now?
So, I think one of the things that we're actually doing this weekend,
Mhm.
this
Sunday.
Sunday, this is September, right?
Yeah.
September 29th.
Yeah.
We're doing a workshop here in Houston called The Art of People.
Mhm.
The goal of the workshop is to help photographers, you know, alike young ones, people who are older, just find like they're missing 10%. I know when we first started photography, it was really hard finding someone that could just help you kind of demystify the whole art of it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's so like, you know, you see how people are editing or taking photos, and you're like, oh man,
How do you do that?
how did you do
Yeah.
that? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
why can't
They
I
can't
do
bridge
that?
the gap.
Mhm.
Exactly. But I think that the best way, so the whole goal of this is to show them that, hey, there's really nothing to it, you know?
Mhm.
Like we're all using the same type of camera, we're all using the same like Lightroom or Photoshop. The settings are always going to be the same, but there's probably like maybe I like to adjust my colors this way. Like I do a little bit of
Mhm.
tint this way,
Wow.
you know? So that's the one thing I do that just kind of take my
Wow. So
photo
you're
this way.
dropping the sauce in this workshop.
Yeah, like
Secret sauce.
Yeah.
yeah, take it.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's
We wanted something like this when we first started.
yeah,
And so we want to be able to
Just
like
be able to help
give
build
back.
the community.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's so
yeah.
good.
So
Mhm.
the goal with this workshop, we're having 3 set designs because that's how we kind of build our whole thing was we love doing set designs and then shooting. So we'll have 3 set designs kind of built out by really amazing people.
Mhm.
And then ourselves as well as one other photographer will shoot alongside everybody.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
then we'll have an editing session where I will take my card, stick it in, and you will watch me work from
Wow.
beginning to end.
Literally the secret sauce.
Everything. Yeah. So you'll see
so good.
exactly how it'll work out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think the goal of that is to we want to do it quarterly, I believe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like our goal.
There you go. If you missed that one,
Yeah.
more coming.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Just build that and have that be a thing that we just bring any and every photographer who's willing to kind of just show to people like how they get their stuff done.
Yep.
How they do it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So how can people find you guys on socials?
So on Instagram, you can just search the CS Visuals, THE, not V, the CS Visuals, and you'll find us. Yeah, pretty much that on everything,
main-
like Facebook,
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
yeah, and again, we love doing brand work and whatnot. And one day I want to direct, so we'll see what that looks like.
Yeah.
It's be cool. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you guys for your insights. Thank you guys for being here at the studio.
Thank you for
And
having us.
the listeners. Hope you guys got some little nuggets here and there. You know, if you've been on the fence, these are practical steps that, like, if you need to hear it again and again, like, listen to it 3-4 times. You know, listen to Sean and Chrissy's story.
Yeah.
Like, there is a path to success to like freelance work, because like as immigrants, especially, like, I know we want to please our parents, we want to respect and honor our parents,
100%.
but we can also define our own success in our own way.
Yeah.
And there is a path to do it.
Yeah.
And so we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.